Welcome to our Tuesday weekly activity, and that's, of course, Acre Pro Buy Sell Thanksgiving week. A lot going on in the world of Purdue football, and I'm with the expert Tom Dienhart, our expert at goldenblack.com, and we'll be talking about some of the topics of the week here. We want to thank our sponsor, Acre Pro Midwest Farm Group, your local farmland specialist with decades of experience in Indiana agriculture. No one knows the market better, whether you're doing a 1031 exchange or simply buying and selling farmland. Your local Acre Pro agent will walk the land with you and ensure the deal is done right. They visit acrepro.com or call 765-587-3185. I think by this time I've got that number almost memorized. We appreciate the fact if you want to talk to your local land expert, you can do that. That number 765-587-3185. All right, by definition, Tom, Bucket Week is always a busy one, an interesting one for Purdue fans. Thanksgiving makes it even more so just because everything is kind of condensed from a work standpoint, from a team standpoint. But we'll look at that game. And I guess my first question is, and this is a hard thing to answer just because we don't really know with Devin Mockabee, but will Purdue throw a little bit of a curve, get over 120 yards rushing against Indiana? And that may be with Dylan Downing, that may be with Devin Mockabee. We don't know, but how do you see that? You've had a chance a little bit to look at the Hoosiers and what you see there.
Yeah, first, I think Devin Mockabee is going to play. That's not a done deal, but I do think he's going to play. All signs at least seem to point toward that, which would be nice for him. I think he's going to have a lot of family members there.
Yeah.
And I do think he's going to have a big game. I think he'll be motivated. He's a Southern Indiana guy, and IU didn't really give him that much attention coming out of Boonville High School. So, yeah, I think Devin's going to be very motivated and is going to have a big game against the Hoosiers on Saturday down there.
So, you look at that situation and you hope from a Purdue standpoint that he can run, because though they certainly they had were serviceable in the run game, but he certainly brings another dimension to what Purdue can do against Indiana. One would think that's going to could make a big difference in Saturday's game.
Yeah, anybody who's watched him play obviously knows he's got a little something to him. Just that ability to stop, to start, to to cut. I think he's very good at cutting, planting his foot, changing directions, and not really losing much speed at all. And just that ability, I think, find that hole, to find that crease in the line. He's slippery. That's what Chris Barclay often says about Devin Mockabee. He's slippery. He calls him soap sometimes. Just hard to get a hold of for a guy who's almost 6 feet tall, weighs about 190 pounds. He certainly doesn't play that big. Just again, a guy who's got a little something special to him. And Dylan Downing and Kobe Lewis are nice backs, and they filled in admirably last week. But I think we all can agree Maccabee's got a little something extra that makes him the number one back on this team.
Yeah, no question. All right, Indiana brings obviously fresh off of a big win at East Lansing when they were outgained about 2-1, but made some big plays in special teams. They made some plays defensively. Dexter Williams, the second, threw a whopping 7 passes, but certainly presents an interesting guy to deal with. He's only thrown for 179 yards this year, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but he ran for 107 yards against Ohio State. And then, he passed for 107 yards, only 6 of 19. But then against Michigan State, only had to throw it 7 times. All right, we'll put the over/under at 15. Will Purdue see less than 15 passes from Indiana, do you think, come Saturday late afternoon?
Yeah, I think they'll see less than 15 passes. I don't think Indiana's going to ask Williams to do something he's not comfortable doing. I think they know what his strengths are. Anybody who's seen him play knows what his strengths are. I think you have to play to those strengths. Again, they were able to beat Michigan State last week on the road.
Yeah.
Without having to throw the football hardly at all. So he's a terrific athlete, man. I watched the end of that game. Saturday night on DVR, and he's fast, he's big, and he's confident now too, coming off that win in East Lansing. Some big plays, and he can pass well enough, I think, to you better keep your head on a swivel, because IU's going to set up some play action passes. Purdue's going to be playing the run. IU knows that. And boy, that could really result maybe in some big pass plays for IU.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tom.
Yeah, when they take their shots downfield. So he presents a lot of issues, I think.
Yeah, interestingly, ran for 86 yards against Michigan State and 16 carries and a touchdown. Ran for 46 yards against Ohio State in 16 attempts also. And you're right, 209 pounds. He's fleet, but he is big enough to really cause some challenges, I think, in that run game just by his size alone. I mean, he's fast enough and big enough to really, really be an interesting guy to deal with.
Yeah, I remember going to Iowa in 1992, watching Purdue play up there with Eric Hunter, and Eric Hunter, I think, completed 2 passes, and Purdue won the game. How many times do we see Navy and Army complete 1 or 2 passes and win games? So you certainly don't have to pass the football to win. We all understand that. And I think this incarnation of Indiana's offense is proof of that. So, it's going to be a unique challenge for Ron English and that Purdue defense on Saturday down there.
Yes, and of course, Indiana also, had a 100-yard rusher last week as well in Sean Shivers. Is it Shivers, number 2, and running back, only 5'7", but a guy that also caused some problems. Tore off a big run last week. Again, Indiana's had to deal with some injuries and some disappointment at quarterback, but in that offense. But again, it gets your attention when you win a game, when you get outgained like that at Michigan State.
Yeah, Sean Shivers, a transfer from Auburn. Again, Not a real big back, but awfully quick. And I think IU was down 24-7 at halftime. They looked like they were dead in the water. Seemingly didn't have anything to play for, right? They lost 7 games in a row. They were getting beat handily at halftime on the road. Why keep fighting, right?
Right.
Why you kept fighting, and they won that thing in double overtime. So the season started with Connor Bazelak at quarterback, the Missouri transfer, and didn't work out for Connor. And they decided to go a different direction. I mean, I guess you got to give Tom Allen credit for wanting to try something different, see if he could spark his team. And looks like he found something, maybe for the time being with Dexter Williams. Now they're 4-7. They're not going to go to a bowl game this year, but who knows what the future holds for this kid. They're at least getting a look at him to see what he can do in Big Ten competition. The real issue for IU is on defense.
Yeah.
Some people think they've actually played better on that side of the ball, but statistically it doesn't look pretty. I know the line has really struggled, but they lack some of the guys in the back end, especially in the secondary with Tywone Mullen in particular. So they may have some cornerbacks that can match up with Charlie Jones.
Well, how many often do you lose a game where your opposing quarterback throws for almost 300 yards, as Peyton Thorne did, and Michigan State had 2 guys rush for 100 yards last week, and yet Indiana comes off with a win, and that is impressive in its own right. Jeff Brohm talked about Monday how about Indiana having 10 seniors on the defense, that they know the system, but it certainly has been a struggle at times for the Hoosiers to be able to corral people defensively.
Yeah, they got a big defensive end from Carmel named Bo Robbins. I know Purdue wanted a few years ago. They got a transfer from Cal who plays on the edge too that they like. So you're right, it really just hasn't come together. Tom Allen's now calling the defense again. He got to IU under Kevin Wilson, was a defensive coordinator, and then of course got the job. And along the way, he gave up defensive play calling, but he took those reins back this year. So he's the guy calling the defense. So then again, they've struggled over there, but in the back end, like I said, they've got some players, and this Purdue offense, as we know, is going to challenge Indiana. And it sounds like the weather has a chance to be at least pretty good for late November, which would bode well for this Purdue offense, which so far in November, boy, the first 3 games of this month have been played in pretty bad conditions.
Yeah, it's going to be warmer. Now they're sneaking a little rain into the forecast, at least the one I saw on Tuesday morning. Whether that's reality will be interesting to see, but sounds like it's at least going to be in the 50s. So we will not, we may need our galoshes, but we're not going to need our heavy coats, one would think, in that little press box in Memorial Stadium. That's all I remember about being there from that standpoint. All right, let's talk a little bit to future stuff for Purdue football. You mentioned that, or we've talked in weeks about bowl opportunities. It still is anybody's guess, and we won't know until December the 5th. I guess I'm going to start with the first one. Are you buying or selling Nebraska or Iowa? Any chance for an upset on Friday afternoon, so that we'd walk into Saturday's game knowing full well we're going to know one way or the other where Purdue sits in the marketplace, so to speak. But are you buying or selling Nebraska in this thing Friday afternoon in Iowa City?
I'm buying them. I think they have a shot. I think they have a shot as long as with Casey Thompson playing quarterback. Just like IU supposedly had no shot last week at East Lansing. A lot of people don't think Nebraska has any shot in Iowa City on Black Friday, but Nebraska gave, Wisconsin all it wanted. Probably should have won that game. Just actually blew it in the fourth quarter. Lost 15-14. I think they can stand toe-to-toe with Iowa as long as they don't turn the ball over. That's what killed Minnesota against the Hawkeyes. Just don't turn the ball over. I think, again, this Nebraska offense has got enough teeth to it. We all saw Trey Palmer, what he can do at wide receiver for the Huskers. I think Casey Thompson, again, is a pretty good quarterback. Have a good running back as well. So I think they can punch some holes in Iowa's defense and make this pretty interesting, make it a fourth quarter game. And who knows at that point, we all know the Iowa offense has its limitations. Sounds like their tight end, Sam Laporte, is not going to play either, which would be a big loss. So I'm buying, Al. I think there's a decent chance, a better than average chance, that I think 10-point underdog Nebraska can shock the Big Ten West and maybe knock off the Iowa Hawkeyes here on Friday.
Yeah, I thought that line was smaller than that, but it's up to 10, huh? So that's I
saw. Yeah,
Iowa in a situation has won 7 in a row in the series, but a lot of those games have been close. You look at the last 3 games: 27-24 Iowa, 26-20 Iowa, 28-21 Iowa. Iowa was ranked in each of those 3 matchups. And of course, Nebraska has not won, but they won last time they won was in Iowa City back in 2014 when the Cornhuskers beat Iowa 37-34. So yeah, I think I'm buying that it's going to be an interesting game and one that will go to the end. You look at what Iowa did against Minnesota, and there was nothing different than we've seen before. I mean, they putz around and then they make 2 big plays defensively, a fumble recovery and an interception that probably should have been a pick 6. And they win, and that's what it sees. But maybe history will be as crazy as football is, and as crazy as you expect the unexpected. Maybe Nebraska finds itself in good stead in what would be a surprise, but not I think I agree with you. It would not be an absolute shock if Nebraska wins, but it would put Purdue in the catbird seat, at least for having to win in Bloomington to get to Indianapolis and to that Big Ten championship game. All right, line on Purdue and Indiana is what? It was a 10. You're a Vegas guy.
I'm not a Vegas guy.
I know, but I mean, buying or selling that line is realistic. Who if you were taking the points, who do you look at this one at?
Yeah, I'm looking at the line on ESPN right now, and it's got Purdue at -10.5. So, yeah. I guess it just scares me, these rivalry games. I guess I still would maybe take the points in the Hoosiers. I think maybe it's going to be closer than people think. I know they won 44-7 last year, pretty one-sided affair, but I think IU's going to be fired up. Again, they're the team with no pressure, playing at home for whatever that's worth, playing loose, playing free. And I think this thing may be closer than maybe what Las Vegas odds makers think.
Yeah, I'm with you. If I knew Maccabee was 100%, I would feel a little different, as I think Purdue would be able just to gouge them as needed. I think without that, it's going to be them. But I'll take the contrary. I'll still say Purdue's going to win by over 10. Or I'll take Purdue in the points in this one. But I do think who the heck knows? In a late afternoon, I don't know that they're going to have a huge crowd for this game. I mean, I think the crowd's going to be decent full of Purdue folks, but those post-Thanksgiving games in Bloomington have had some sparse attendance over the years. It'll be interesting to see what the Purdue contingent will be and what effect will be. All right, now,
it's
go
funny.
ahead, Tom.
Purdue's only won. Take away the Indiana State game. Purdue's only won one game by 10 points this year. That was Minnesota 20-10. They beat Florida Atlantic by 2. They beat Maryland by 3. They beat Nebraska by 6. And they beat Illinois by 7. Of course, last week they won by 8. So just as a little point of reference, Purdue just has not been able to really put their foot on the throat of anybody this year. Maybe it happens Saturday, who knows? But again, this team, like I said, had issues, I guess, living up to odds makers' expectations, at least when they're a double-digit favorite.
Yeah. Shame on you for bringing logic and thought into this discussion.
His history doesn't matter, but
it doesn't. It doesn't. I think as they always say, coaches always say, players matter, and players make plays, and it has nothing to do with anything about what Purdue has done down there over the years or hasn't done over the years. It's generally been a relatively friendly place for Purdue, Memorial Stadium, but
they haven't been down there since 2018.
Right, since Rondale Moore
got scrubbed because of COVID.
And so that's an interesting lot as well. And it wasn't all that friendly, of course, for Purdue during the Darrell Hazel days, as the Boilermakers never really even came close down
0-4.
Yeah. So that part is another thing that, again, we love to talk about, but it means nothing. All right. The other, I don't know if you call it the elephant in the room, but certainly getting a lot of discussion. Another thing that we don't really know, we're just guessing like everybody else. There's been some noise about Jeff Brohm and his future. Louisville and Purdue both have the same records, 7-4. I think the Cardinals play Kentucky to end its season. Purdue obviously plays Indiana. There has to be a job opening at Louisville, one would think, before Jeff Brohm would go there. I don't think we can say, we predict there's going to be noise, but let's just say, will there be, and I don't know how you define this, but we'll throw that out there anyway. Will there be on Sunday anything to pay attention to in terms of the coaching carousel and potential Jeff Brohm moves or none of the above?
I have no reason to think anything's afoot, but that doesn't mean nothing is not afoot. Looking at it logically, it doesn't appear Louisville would be in any haste to make a change off of Scott Satterfield at this point. Like you said, I think they're 7-4, and I can't imagine the outcome of one game is going to make or break his tenure there, just even though it is a rivalry game. So again, they got Kentucky left, and he's done a pretty solid job. They've have a pretty good recruiting class already lined up, at least some good recruits lined up as well, for whatever that's worth. But crazy things happen in this world, and when people with a lot of money want something, they usually get it. They usually find a way to get what they want. And if the people sitting on big piles of money want Jeff Brohm to be the coach at Louisville, I imagine they can make it happen if they want to. Logic be damned.
Yeah.
Well, that's always a factor. We see it all the time in college sports. The coaching change that makes absolutely no sense. Why are they getting rid of this guy? What did he do wrong? Well, that's not always the reason why somebody is displaced. It's because they want somebody else. So there's always that possibility. But I've got no reason, not that I know all these Louisville insiders or anything, but from this view, I guess at this point, Alan, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I may be leaning toward thinking maybe this would be the time Brohm did jump. But as we've gotten deeper into the season, at this point, I guess I'm on the other side of that meter. At this point, I'll be more surprised if something happens when Jeff Brom's not the coach next year.
Yeah, surprised, but as I think we're all been around long enough to say surprised but not shocked. And I keep going back to the Paul Chryst example. I know that, again, just like history at Memorial Stadium has nothing to do with anything except that it just shows what a crazy world it's out there. And you're right, I couldn't agree with you more on the whole notion. If there's money out there, and there is, as what do we say, bourbon and horse money down in Louisville, that presents a wild card. And the thing that's going to happen, if it does happen, and I'm not saying it's going to, it's just going to be poof and he'll be gone. If something changes, it'll all probably happen quickly. And that part is true. But I logically, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Yes, Jeff Brohm has done a lot in his 6-year tenure at Purdue and has gotten the fans back. And maybe if with a West Division championship, even if he doesn't represent the Big Ten in the championship game, that's the feather on his cap that says, I've done my job, I can move on. I get all that, but some other things have to happen. The fact that Louisville has some empty seats to fill and feels like they could bring a favorite son home, that has worked some places. It didn't work too well in Lincoln, Nebraska. Who knows? It's a definite maybe not. I don't know any other way to say it. All right. Bowl games, one other buy sell. You and I have evaluated that a little bit. It seems to me, and you may have other information since we've talked last, but it seems to me it comes down to 3 bowls for Purdue, really, and maybe really 2. The Outback Bowl, or what used to be the Outback Bowl. It's the Relia. It's a new bank down in Tampa.
It's called the Tampa Bowl.
Yeah, the Tampa Bowl, and then of course the Duke Mayo Bowl in Charlotte seems to me to make sense. To me, if Iowa takes care of business, and we're of course, we both think that may not happen. If Iowa takes care of business, one would think, and Penn State moves its way up to the New Year's Day 6. These are all factors that we don't know. If the Big Ten gets 3 teams in the New Year's Day 6, and if we make that assumption, then it's Iowa, Illinois, and Purdue for those 3 bowls. One would think maybe Wisconsin on the back end, but again. So are you buying or selling? I'm going to say Tampa versus Charlotte for right now. Which one are you buying for Purdue?
I guess I'm leaning toward Tampa, but again, the X factor you mentioned is Penn State.
Yep.
Penn State get a New Year's Day 6 bowl bid. That's the big key. And I was looking at Brett McMurphy's bowl projections last night. Works for the Action Sports Network. Very dialed in, college football insider, a good guy. And he didn't have Penn State in New Year's 6 bowl. He had Tennessee playing Tulane in that Cotton Bowl, which is supposed to be the landing spot for Penn State. Instead, he's got Penn State obviously crowded down into Florida. Now he's got Penn State playing Ole Miss in Orlando. He's got Iowa playing Florida and Tampa. He actually had Purdue playing Louisville in the Pinstripe Bowl. So again, just everything's on the table, from the 2 Florida bowls to Charlotte and New York. I think for sure we can say it's going to be one of those 4 bowl destinations. Tampa, Orlando, Charlotte, or New York. And again, the X factor is going to be if the Big Ten can get a 3rd team into one of those upper echelon, playoff / New Year's 6 bowls. I think we all know Ohio State and Michigan. One will be in the playoff and one will be in a New Year's 6 bowl. Can a 3rd Big Ten team get there? I think obviously if that happens, that enhances Purdue's chances to land in Florida. But even then, Alan, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think if Iowa gets the title game, they're going to get one of those spots.
No question.
And would Tampa be more intrigued with taking Illinois than Purdue? I think that's a possibility. That's just something for everybody to keep on their radar, not get your feelings hurt. If Illinois goes to Tampa and Purdue goes to Charlotte, I just think that may be a possibility too. Illinois is an awfully good story. And it's a big school, a ton of alumni. It's the flagship university of a huge state. I know they don't have great crowds all the time, but still, it's got a lot to sell from a TVI standpoint, I think, too. So, again, New York, Charlotte, Tampa, Orlando, that's quite a contrast in destinations, but it's way too early to even try to make a good, hearty guess as to where they could land.
Yeah, it is just guesswork. Jerry Palm, a friend of the show and Purdue graduate and does this also for a living, agrees also he does not have Penn State in New Year's Day 6. He has Purdue and Florida State at Duke's Mayo Bowl. That would be an interesting one. Florida State is coming on strong. That'd be a heck of a
That'd be a great game.
Tough game for Purdue. He had Iowa and South Carolina at the ReliaQuest, which is the correct name for the Tampa Bowl. My apologies to ReliaQuest. And of course, Music City had Wisconsin and Kentucky. Remember too.
Who do you have in Orlando? Who do you have in Orlando?
He had Penn State against Ole Miss.
So where's he got Iowa? Where's he got Iowa in New York?
He has Iowa at South Carolina in Tampa.
In Tampa, so, okay.
And Iowa certainly helped itself. I mean, South Carolina helped itself last week. Went up the.
That didn't matter. That didn't matter.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of fan interest, I think, and again, you're right. The one, it doesn't matter where you finish. It does matter whether they think you're going to bring some people. And,
they could, Alan, they could do these bowls in August. They could. They could.
Yep, and it is going to be an interesting thing to see. We will know that we'll be guessing about that probably all throughout the week.
It's
leading
fun.
to the Big Ten, but we'll know on Sunday, December 4th.
There you go. Yeah.
On where Purdue is in, and who knows, the pinstripe could be possible too. You got to remember too, one other important thing, though it is true that theoretically you can't. Purdue's not going back to Nashville because those contracts don't allow for 2 consecutive visits in a 5-year or 2 visits in a 5-year period. Though different bowls have different things. They have also Jerry Palm has Pittsburgh and Illinois in the Pinstripe Bowl. I'd want warm weather for you, Tom, wherever it is.
I don't care. Don't worry about that. I'm always kind of, I get excited when Purdue plays kind of like a real name brand.
Yeah.
And to play Florida State would be really cool, I think. Wouldn't that be cool to play Florida State?
Yeah, Florida State 8-3 right now. And they got the Gators this week with Mike Norvell. They've done some good things. And that would be a huge challenge from that standpoint. All right, we're going to bring this to a close. We have answered all and none of the questions all at the same time.
Yes.
But we wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. We're grateful to acrepro.com for sponsoring the best to the Dienhart family and all the folks in your sphere. But we also want to wish our readers, watchers, and however, as Mr. Newbert says, however you process our information, we want you to know we're thankful for that. And all of you that have come over to goldenblack.com, you can do so for $1. If you're looking for a Black Friday gift, even Tom Dienhart can hold it for, handle $1, I think.
Yeah, I can handle that.
$1 to join the goldenblack.com as part of the On3 network. We've had thousands move over already, and we're grateful for that too. So when we're sitting at the Thanksgiving Day table, I'm going to be thankful. At least one part of that will be for our readers and all the subscribers we've had over the years. So we'll do that as we carve that turkey on Thursday. All right. When it comes to land sales, remember acrepro.midwest farm group. They're your local farmland specialists, I should say. Visit acrepro.com, call 765-587-3185. Kyle Spray and company do a great job there, and we appreciate their support as well. That number again, 765-587-3185. Happy Thanksgiving all, and stay tuned. I think we might we'll have another one of these next week to buy or sell. We'll be guessing about Purdue's bowl landing spot and probably some more news of some kind to get to, but we'll do a post season rep with our Acre Pro as well. So have a great rest of your week all, and thanks again for watching and listening.